listening in the radio land. It's always a pleasure whenever I have the opportunity to engage you on issues of national concern. It's been very difficult to measure progress in Liberia. Extremely difficult. We cannot, as a country, as a people, look back and say, 10 years ago, we were a net importer of chicken. Today, we are not importing chicken to Liberia. We cannot, as a people, look back and say, 15 years ago, we were a net importer of rice. But today, we are not importing rice. We cannot, as a people, really measure progress in terms of many other sectors. Health. We cannot say, well, our hospitals were run down yesterday. We had limited beds. Today, our hospitals are very functional. We cannot equally say our educational system was much better yesterday or a lot more competitive, and today our educational system is a lot better than it was yesterday. As a nation, we are challenged seriously on many fronts by many issues. Roads that are built to increase our infrastructure stock 1 year later become part of the problem because of the substandard ways in which they are dealt. And this situation is not just a today thing, it's persistent for a while. The Weir administration has not even helped the situation. Things have gotten worse and worse. Our hospitals today, the only stories you hear about JFK. Oh, I took my somebody to JFK and I knew somebody there that helped me get a bed. People cannot even get a bed at JFK. And these are the public hospitals. Interestingly, some of the simplest diseases, some of the simplest illnesses like malaria are killing more people today than they were probably yesterday. So it's difficult to measure our stock in terms of where we're going as a people. Sadly though, simple things like dye collection, dye is all over the capital today. Even though the people that should be collecting dye are clean, but the city itself is out there. And of course, if you have so much dye around, it creates an opportunity for mosquito to infest and for other diseases and viruses to prosper. Our educational system is a serious problem. Bachelors are teaching bachelors. Masters are teaching masters. People graduate from school, and the expectation that when I graduate, I will get a job, sadly, is so far away. People are not getting jobs. We have no measure of determining how many jobs are created. The quantity of investment attracted to this country is so limited. Under these circumstances, when people say they are tired, we understand. We understand that people should be tired. No Liberian should get up in the morning and live under the circumstances people are currently living. When people say they are tired, we agree. People should be tired because prosperity eludes us. And people are really suffering. It's a difficult thing. Getting a simple thing, a bed at a hospital. The economy is nothing to write home about. We don't have, like I said, a stock of knowing whether how many jobs are created monthly or annually. We have no real measure. As far back as 2010, Liberia needed to create 50,000 jobs per annum. With an increase in our population since 2010, the number of jobs, because by 2010 we were about 3-point-something million. Today we are about an estimated 5-point-something. So the number of jobs is probably about 60,000 to 70,000 per annum. Are we creating that? No. Access to borrowing in Liberia is crazy. Those who go by the banks, the exchange, the interest rates are crazy. People who borrow in Liberian dollars say it's as high as 40%. And sometimes people want to borrow small money just to try to get by with some kind of business. Even those that are working are living from hand to mouth. Before the month ends, the salary is over. So when people say they are tired, we understand that. We clearly understand, and we are in support that these people are tired. But when people are suffering, the best way to empathize with them is not to mobilize them to the streets. When people are suffering, the best way to do it is to assist them. We cannot be mustering massive resources to mobilize people and put them onto the street. When people demonstrate, it's not going to reduce the price of rice. When people demonstrate, it's not going to change the health system. When people demonstrate, it's not going to change anything. In fact, what will happen the worst will be that you scare investors away, people who wanted to open whatever. And some of the actors that are the front runners in trying to mobilize people, it is alleged that they have money. If you converted $1 million to Liberian dollars, you can lend it to Susu clubs and give it to them at 5% interest rate, and they will then lend it for a 7 or 8%, or you can lend it to them for 2.5%. They can lend it for 5%. $1 million circulating in Liberia around the macro credit system of the different clubs will force down the interest rate. That will create prosperity for our people. We are working with Susu clubs in and around the country. We haven't started with Monrovia yet. We're starting in other parts to drive down interest rate in rural Liberia. We believe that is a way to help people that are tired. We also believe we're working with medical doctors to provide free surgical operations. We did that before, and we're doing that again. We believe that is the way to assist people that are tired. We believe mobilizing people onto the streets is just to glorify oneself and to exploit people's pain. And we think that kind of politics in Liberia doesn't have any more life, it doesn't have any more space, and we must not glorify it. And we want to say to our fellow Liberians, typically you will always say after these events, oh, they gave me money so I keep. We don't want to hear that. If they give you money, eat the money, but don't show up. Because when you show up, the message you're sending is that this is the way you entertain politics. So if you get your first round of money, eat it and don't show up. Because if you don't show up, you'll be sending a message to us politicians that when one person we elect is screwing up, help us, and by helping us, we will then know that you are willing to help us when you get there. But when we mobilize you the wrong way, and you get onto the streets, and then you come back and start looking for somebody to criticize that person, it's totally unsustainable. I ran in the last elections, George Weah was preferred. The reasons why you prefer him, I don't even know. We don't know why you prefer George Weah. The guy was senator, he said nothing. The guy is president, he said nothing. The guy did not attend any debate. You made him president. Today, you're too busy looking for leaders that will attack him rather than looking for leaders that understand the issues. That's why we've availed ourselves by dissecting the issues of Liberia. Again, Liberia's issues are not individuals, it's systems. So far as we're running a budget system that gives almost all of the money to the legislature, that spends nothing on the private sector, it means all of the money collected from taxation is not going to develop. If that's the system we run, it means poverty will prosper repeatedly and continuously. The 2023 elections must not be about trying to glorify a few people that we like. It must be about us taking the anger of our frustration, the anger of our tiredness, to elect people like me who have a clear vision of transforming our country. If we did that, my fellow Liberians, we'll be in a better position to have a better Liberia in tackling the issues that we confront today. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the outcomes that we're going to get from any campaign called We Tired that gets onto the streets will be one that hurt the economy, that hurt the very people that are suffering. Moving forward, we must move away from those kinds of approaches and embrace positive, very positive outcomes that help us. Thank you so much. We'll now open it up for questions, which will be conducted by the chair.
Yes, sir, my name is Semion. I report for KMTV. Unfortunately, Liberia is a democratic nation, as we all know, and one way to unleash your voice in humanity is through saying a word or saying a message to the government through writing, quote unquote. I mean, if you come in to that point somehow against that, are you, in other words, saying that democracy, in its sense, shouldn't be realized in Liberia, if Liberia should be better?
And you need to look at the concept of democracy from a positive standpoint. Because I am your son, and you have the right to chastise me when I go wrong, doesn't mean I never interval in chastisement. We're having a global situation where external systems have hurt us. The issue is, when you take certain actions, what outcomes do you expect? Is that going to change anything? Don't forget, you remember people got onto the streets and demonstrated, say they should sack Tuer Margay, and what happened? Nothing happened. Tuer Margay remained, noise was caused, investors that had to make decisions move out of the country, they went to other destinations. So what are we going to achieve with this? I think anything that we must do, along with the journalists, mobilize our people now and give George Weah a red card in 2022. That is the best way to do and practice democracy under these circumstances. Typically, let's look at history. Demonstrations have not changed anything much. Whether it's America where people demonstrated, whether it's in Canada where the truckers demonstrated, whether it's in France where you have yellow vests, whether it's anywhere else where demonstrations are taking place, they've never really changed anything. The systems remain, even when you place sanctions on governments and countries. Look, Venezuela, they had sanctions. Cuba, they had sanctions on a whole administration, and they still survive it, they're still there, so it wouldn't change anything. What is going to change is when the journalistic community, ourselves in politics, desirous of being president, can equip our people with the right information, and then when they go to vote, they vote and change the process. Right now, getting onto the streets is not the best way to inspire confidence in investors, it's not the best way to change anything. is only the best way to glorify people who themselves have no access or clue to what the challenges are.
Okay, thank you. My name is Elijah Pine and I report for Fortune Television. You outlined several challenges as faced by the Liberian people. Are you taking into consideration also the right to assemble, according to the Constitution of 2017, as to petition the government in bringing their feet to the fire and rectifying some errors being made?
If we were speaking in 2018, I would say what you just said is adequate and appropriate. But we're speaking in 2022, we're months away from elections. Right now, it's about reviewing the performance of the government. Right now, it's not about telling this government that we tired. The best way to express that, if you and the woman already in Davos court, you don't go trying to talk to her again, because we are at a point where we should be discussing, look, we're going to be Davosing. We're not supposed to be discussing, oh, let's discuss now how we can make up. Elections next year, October. It just, what? This is December. You're talking months away. And the best way to do it is to try to mobilize people to retire the government. The way not to do it is to try now to create situations that could lead to other circumstances. So for example,
how do you describe the gathering under the auspices of rally by the CPP?
So the way we see that using the suffering of the people is that they are not trying to help the suffering masses. Because you're not doing anything. You're not saying, okay, look, we're going to do this, we're going to do this to help these suffering people. You say mobilize them, assemble them, and attack. It's not going to solve any problem. What it's going to do, clearly, is going to hurt the very people. So let's say somebody is thinking about investing $300,000 in Liberia to open something. Do you think they're going to come when they see thousands of young people in the streets? Go back into history. Wherever you've had those kinds of things in countries, it's been an incentive for investors to look elsewhere. So if you do that, you hurt the investment in your country, you hurt the media who depends on the business community for prosperity. So these things and the outcomes never really play out the way they should.
Okay, sir, my name is Rojan. From your assertion, it seems like you as an opposition political leader is against the idea of another group of oppositions staging a rally. From your assertion, that would be the case. Now, does this not paint a picture that indeed the opposition itself going against the CDC is not united?
I want to look at it this way. If an opposition party is gathering its membership, right, to mobilize them, I cheer that. We do that every time. We just did that the other day in Boston. We do that every time. We do that. We just did that the other day when we financed a league in Kakata, where we brought 42 communities together. It was massively supported, massively attended. But when you're bringing people together under the bandwagon of their current predicament and their current suffering and their current challenges in the name of highlighting it, then you're basically insulting them because you're not helping the situation. The MPC approach to dealing with health challenges is, we've spoken to medical doctors and we say, we want you to come together as a team of surgeons. We want to provide free surgical operations. By next month, we'll be taking them to one other county where they will be targeting about 200 people to benefit from free surgical operation. Thing that will cost them so much money. We're also working with a hospital now to make that hospital fully functional. These are things you do with people that are suffering. You don't take their situation and their difficulty. Mr. Trojan Kazulu cannot come to me and say, I'm broke. Then I tell you, my man, they enjoy walking, enjoy taking your room back. The way to help him will be, my man, here, even though it's insufficient, here is something, but please pay your way and go out or hustle for somebody else. That's what we're talking about. We're not against people coming together. The other thing is, because we are members of the opposition, doesn't mean everything that the opposition or we do within our clique is proper. Actions that we take that hurts the economy and hurts the very people, some of us will stand up and speak against that, like we did in the other case when we had to fight the corruption issue.
And now, just a follow-up, sir. Now, with this particular stance that NPC is taking, some pundits may interpret it as you are sort of siding with the ruling party or the government.
If anybody said that, then they didn't listen to the press conference, and they're probably drinking something and need to drink something, because we're quite clear that the government has underperformed. We discussed that in detail and in length. If the person didn't hear that, maybe they're drinking something, and maybe I need to drink that too, so that when people speak English, I don't, then, you know, I don't misinterpret it or I don't understand.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I'm Aaron Talo. I work for Spoon. And I want to know exactly whether you have problem with the nomenclature attached to the gallery or the individual who are championing the cause.
We don't have problem, like I said, with political parties, except we have problem with the concept. When people say they attire, you help them. If you have said this political party is gathering people, right? Gathering its people. Like you remember when Dillon wanted to become senator, we mobilized people. We supported that, right? Because in every respect, every political party needs to show off its strength. Excellent. But when people are suffering, you don't exploit the suffering by trying to use it for political strength. Help people that are suffering. When you go to an orphanage and there are difficulties, or your friends are, I mean, you guys do that every morning. Sometimes you have $100, your friend has 50, another person has 75, you put the money together and you eat. Sometimes you have 200, you buy today, and tomorrow they help you. Sometimes some of the guys don't contribute. You don't buy the food, say before the man and say, my man, you know, when I finish eating, then we'll laugh up. You know, you don't even do that. It's against Liberia's culture, it's against our practice, and that's why we're saying, if you are taking people to the streets in the name of the entire suffering, then that's not the way to help them. If you say onto the streets that, look, we're mobilizing our partisans, all right, to showcase our strength. Let all of these other political party partisans come up. Excellent. We've seen many other parties do that regularly. We don't have a problem. But our people are suffering. Do not exploit that, you know, and make mockery of them. And that's what we're talking about. There are water situation, help solve it. Look, if you have money, the price of rice today is killing you guys. You're talking about that. Spend $1 million, import rice, sell your rice cheaper. The other people that are importing rice will obviously be compelled to do what? To sell it much cheaper. So we say, help our people if you say you recognize that they are tired.
But Mr. Freeman, one would say it is not the role of the opposition to be importing rice, to be, you know, going out and doing what you say they should be doing. It is the role of the opposition to, of course, bring the government's feet to the fire.
Well then, I think I should shut down this business where you are. I think I should shut down the hotel. I just took over the Millennium Guest House. I turned it now into Cinco Palace. And the water factory, some of you guys who live across the bridge, we're turning it into a sovereign factory. We're putting all of the machines. We're doing some expansion. The roof came, but because of the hotel, we focus our attention. We're coming back to that. I think we should forget about the whole concept of the Freeman city. If you want to be president and you claim to have money, you help the very people whose life you want to change. You don't make mockery of the situation. That's precisely where we are. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Theo Williams, and I report for the US-based Focus on Liberia Online Television Network. In a nutshell, tell us, why do you think you are best suited to lead this country?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Williams. I'll tell you what. A president is like a CEO. He has managers. So think about the managers as ministers. each manager runs a different department. Each minister runs a different department. In fact, prior to today, it was called secretaries, and it was called department, right? So we had Secretary of State, Secretary of Education. But quite recently, we changed the title to minister because we wanted to unite with the ECOWAS structure. If some of you remember, we used to use 110 in Liberia before, and then they changed it to 220 to unite with the ECOWAS infrastructure. So I run businesses in Liberia, and I have managers on me. And not just that, I also have been able to clearly articulate a clear vision for where I want to take Liberia. I've been able to clearly say that I want to reduce the size of the public sector. I want to invest in the private sector. We want to build houses so that we have a mortgage system, because the current system that we run is not going to help it. Right now we have 1.6 million people living in Monrovia. We're saying out of our population, that's about 32%. We're saying we want to have investments back in rural, so that when we have these factories back in rural, what's going to happen? There will be no need for people to leave from rural to urban. Then people will leave from urban back to rural. In that way, we'll create multiple cities. The US-based company that you report for, you see they have multiple cities around America. Even small communities now. People are living. Here, if you want ice cream, you can't get it in Grandier. You have to come to Monrovia. If you want a nice hotel, you have to come to Monrovia. You need to have alternative life going on. And I've been able to clearly articulate that. That's why we have the Simeon Freeman show. And we think people desirous of being president of a group of people that are suffering, these are the things you do that distinguishes you. It's not about coming together then and make mockery of the situation and showcase. You want to showcase your number? Say, look, we gathering as a group and we are uniting ourselves. We will heal that, we will support that, and anybody speak against that, we'll have a problem. We are just against people exploiting the peace of our people. Because look, the pains are real. The other day I was in Clarendon, passed by a woman, five bowls she had, these metal pegs. The woman cooked that rice with only chicken soup. The soup was red oil. I was shocked. She spread the oil on top of each of the food and she was dividing. That is the reality people are enduring. It's nothing to make mockery of. It's nothing to gather there in the name of we're suffering, I'll pay you, come up to the street. No, it's something to say, let's help them. So the way to help them is to do that. The way to help them is to provide solutions that we are trying to do. If you did that, then clearly you help in the situation. So coming back to your question, we have a clear leverage because we've invested resources in our country. We didn't have to do that. So if you say you have money, invest it in our country. Some of the people making the most noise, they say they have money. Have they opened any business here for you to see? No, now. They haven't opened a single business. They have not created a single employment. They have not created any opportunities for Liberians other than spending money on t-shirts. And then you come to make mockery of the people's situation. We have a problem.
Yes. So Freeman, my name is Alvin Woolsey and I work for the Daily Observation. Two concerns with you. First, what would be your alternative to the CPP rally or protest? Second one, as a businessman, this issue about hardship in our country, how much of this hardship can you attribute to George Weah administration, and how do you think this hardship can be revived? Thank you, sir.
Brilliant question. The alternative to that rally, like I said, will be they can have their own rally or their membership. That would be an alternative. Right now is not a time for rallies where you put people onto the streets. The reason why? Because the report card is up. You know, those days when I was on a mission, and you know, schools used to close in October those days. And by October, you will see the whiteboard. If your grade was 69, leave yours to God. Because you don't have, you can pass in November and December, it's not going to happen. So we just, by the time the white birds come onto the field, we say, just leave your own to God. Right now is a time to determine who becomes Liberia's next president. That's the conversation right now. It's not a time to discuss, the issue of celebrating people's pain and poverty. Because people are suffering. They've endured it for all these years. How much of the suffering can I attribute to the current administration? A lot of it. You see, the purpose of presidency, let me give you a corporate situation. There's a lady who became the CEO of Ford. At the time she became the CEO of Ford, Ford was caught up in a major corporate challenge, and they were sitting before the U.S. Senate and they were being interviewed. She became president that week of the major crisis. She assumed Ford and she steered Ford away from troubles. She made it a competitive company. She restored its credibility. She restructured the company. She refocused it. Today, Ford is even going into electric vehicles, which is now a major market. She didn't say, oh, I wasn't the CEO that started this company. She did not export the product. That's why you see me, in many respects, saying all of the approaches of this administration have further exacerbated the problem. Did they meet problems? They met lots of them. Could they change it? Yes, they could have. The way they spend their resources, bad. The people they've appointed in government, bad. They ran a partisan government. And as a result, that partisan government has hurt people. As the candidate, when I become president of Liberia, I must have the sense to know that you supported me massively. But not because you supported me doesn't mean you have the capacity to be Minister of Commerce, or Minister of Finance, or Minister of Planning, or Minister of Education. No, it doesn't mean that. I must find ways in which I can create opportunities for you, void of you being a national liability to the country. Because if I appoint the wrong people in government, it's going to hurt. That's why I've always said, if you make me president, I will sit with all of the political parties and we will spot the right talents. That's how countries like Singapore develop. They spotted the right talents and they put them to work. But if you only going to give job to your own people because they supported you, it is not those people around you that gave you the winning numbers. It was all Liberians that voted for you. So if you're going to reward your loyalists, it will be at the detriment of the rest of the people who supported you. So the approaches of this government has hurt worse. And if we elect another government that do not understand the issues, it will hurt a lot more. What's that? Even Guinea is making more progress than we are. Guinea is making more progress than we are. Many other countries are. We need to elect the right leadership. You say something?
So how do we revive that situation?
And the way to revive it, like we said, if you listen to the Freeman show, Freeman show, we discuss a lot of things. But we can go in one depth. The key point here is we must reduce import dependency. Every time you import, you export jobs. If you're going to be using mosquito spray, and we're bringing in 20 containers of mosquito spray every month, the question is, who is producing that mosquito spray? And the money that you send it to buy the mosquito spray means it's giving jobs to those guys. We spend about $300 million annually on rice. The question is, which producers are getting that money? Let me just give you, if you're a follower of global news, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire came together just last week and they decided they will not attend the Cocoa Council. The entire global cocoa community is in this area. The two countries produce more than 40% of the global cocoa. If they say they're not going there, what's going to happen? It means now they will be creating wealth for their own people. If Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire decide, look, we want to add value to cocoa in our country. Cocoa is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Imagine what's going to happen with a poor farmer that looks all ragged on the farm and is growing cocoa. When we reduce import substitution and we start adding value to rice, and these things, when you say it, people say it's far-fetched. Nigeria has electricity problem. Nigeria was spending $20 billion on rice import. Today, Nigeria spends zero on rice import. They don't import rice anymore. Nigeria today is a net exporter of rice. As of last year, Nigeria recorded 9 million metric tons. Her consumption is 7 million metric tons. So now she's a net exporter. Tanzania is a net exporter of rice. Many countries are moving away. Liberia, because of bad leadership, we are not helping. That's why we say industrialization will change everything. Even the cassava you and I eat personally is glue. It's industrial starch. Do you know the beer you drink comes from cassava? There's something called sorbitol. It comes out of cassava. Imagine how many industries will have more than 120 factories across Liberia, adding value to cassava, creating jobs. Do you think we're going to have all of these slums here? People will leave and go back to rural because they will be working, they can have a better job, they will have better life, they will have better prosperity, businesses can set up, things will change. That's what the Simeon, Freeman, and MPC is all about. These are the things we want people desirous of being president to change. Not to come and celebrate people's pain and elevate it and act like, you know, you're trying to change it when you're doing absolutely nothing to change it.
Yeah. Yes. I'm Harris Bele, and I report for Voice of Liberia. I have a concern. Over times, the politics in Liberia is where the opposition will criticize the government, and the government will return criticize the opposition. Now that if we listen to you, Simeon from in opposition community, criticizing your fellow opposition, it raises concern. So Liberians are thinking, what is left for them, and what's the hope for Liberians now?
You know, that question brings an issue to a full. There was a journalist, I remember, that reported a story of a guy in Kakata. He said the guy died. And the guy came to Monrovia and went to the journalist and said, look, I'm alive. I'm sure you guys heard the story, right? I'm alive. I'm living. Here I am. The journalist said, my man, I sent my story. You dead. The man went to the press union. So now, the press union, also being a member of the press, what did they do? They invited them and they tried to solve that problem, right? So you're saying to me, when we do bad in the opposition, because we are members of the opposition, we put a big lock to our mouth and say that. And every member of the opposition that want to blow up the country, we should just let them blow up the country because we're members of the opposition. I guess that's not what you say. What we say clearly is, if you're a member of the opposition, we have a goal. Remove and retire the current administration. And the people are not stupid. Even if you had a successful ride, even if you were able to pay people and mobilize them, do you think it's going to change anything? It's not going to change anything. The reality is people are suffering. So the way to do that is to be able to tell them how you're going to change these situations. If you cannot tell them how you're going to change the situation, then it's a major issue. You know, and some of the actors that are behind these things are even struggling to answer simple questions like, do you support gay rights or not? They can't even answer those questions. But they are some of the forerunners of trying to celebrate the peace of our people. So yes, the opposition, that's why you see it's not just me. Other people in the opposition have spoken against this approach. It's not going to change anything. So we're saying, if you want to change Liberia, let's have a clear vision. In fact, I would think we in the opposition should be having more of a debate among ourselves so we can have a clearer vision as to who has a better grasp and a better understanding of the kinds of solutions that need to be deployed for the better member.
Yeah, Mr. Freeman, my name is Joseph Daniels and I report for OKFM. You've outlined a lot of things in your vision that you will bring forth when you are elected as president. Definitely, you also lead to fight corruption. So recently, we've had some sanction against officials of government, and those people are standing in different political subdivisions in order for them to contest to go into the House of Representatives, into the House of Senate. What's your stance on that? Will you encourage such participation within our electoral process? Or if any of those people come to contest within your party, what will be your reception?
Then we have to go back to the law. The laws of Liberia clearly says a man, and that was the thing with the Samuka case. People that didn't know the laws of Liberia said the civil law, the criminal court had convicted Samuka. Why didn't the National Elections Commission rejecting. In Kenya, it's different. If you have a pending litigation, you cannot contest. If you have an allegation or a claim, you cannot contest. In the case of Liberia, it says a man is not guilty until proven. So a sanction is actually an external instrument. And to use it as a basis may be difficult even for the National Elections Commission. But whereas the issuing party, the US government, have said, those doing business with sanctioned people will themselves be sanctioned. Now you're dealing with the might of a bigger force externally. So that caveat creates the basis for some kind of alert. But clearly, if you're going by Liberian law, then no political party seems to be obligated to oblige. But so far as there is a threat that if you do business with these kinds of individuals, you too will be sanctioned, then that means you have that exposure. Because don't forget, the sanction will affect US dollar. The US government has laws that says wherever you have US dollar moving, and all of the banks have worked with something called SWIFT, right? SWIFT is when they're sending money out, they have to send it through, they have a spelling, you know, SWIFT is an abbreviation for a series of words. I don't remember them now. But be that as it may, the reason why the sanction is a powerful tool is if you have a bank and I'm sanctioned and you're still doing business with me and your bank is sanctioned, it means your business is shut down. So yeah, these kinds of institutions have incentive not to engage with. So I think if that will lean on, that will be external tools that will help us quite a lot. How will I fight corruption? Basman, corruption is greed. All I have to do is to take away the opportunity. No human being is righteous. The Bible says that. So if I want to, look, if all of y'all leave from here, and I say, Jama will give you something, y'all go outside. Then I tell one man, as my man, you 1,000 naira for the ball. The man will come outside as my man, the man get 200. You have no means of knowing. But everybody standing here as my man, you 1,000 for the balls. The man can do nothing with your money. So in every respect, why do we have corruption? We have corruption for several reasons. One, today in Liberia, at a time when we have technology, we still have payroll fraud. People ghost names on payroll. We had that ever since. But today we got mobile phone. Pray tell me why the government of Liberia is not pushing every teacher payroll to his mobile phone. Pray tell me why every teacher don't have a free national ID card that has a graph on it. Look, I have cards from other countries. I have the Nigerian card, I have the Ghana card, and all those things. It's all electronic. I have the Tanzanian card. It's all electronic. Those cards are all electronic. And look, you can't buy anything in Kenya. But if I want to sell you land or sell you car, I don't have to come see you. You just do a PIN transfer. You open your PIN. I open my PIN. I send it. I send you the document. You receive it. You okay on that phone. All your properties, once they put your PIN in, all your properties, so the revenue authority knows how to track that. These things are working. We can leverage technology in our country. The reason why we're having these things, because we are lazy. Laziness, that's what's hurting us. Maybe you don't know. 2020, mobile money did $2 billion US. Mobile money. Mobile money also did 781 billion Liberian dollars. Momo that we're talking about. So imagine the government can pay all of its employees via Momo. Because Ghost does not have a telephone number. The Ghost will not go register the ID card. So you register the ID card, we tie you to it. That means we just push your money through. There will be no issue. So corruption is prospering because there are clear ideas. Corruption is not something you take broom and sweep. It's not that. Corruption is living in human being. It's something you have to develop the right strategies to fight. And I intend to leverage technology and leverage new approaches.
Yes, sir. My name is David Tabe. I work for the US-based Liberia Radio and Television Network and in Liberia for City Connection. You talk about.
Raise your voice.
Yes, you talk about debate. You talk about debate. And you said you're wondering why people voted for Joshua. You didn't attend any debate. And debate in other countries is something that citizens serious. It's that debates that people make decisions to decide as to who is the best candidate. But in Liberia, that doesn't seem to be the case. We noticed years back, people got in the street and signed the kill and pie, kill and out, we vote for you. No vote, no vote. You don't know who I will vote for. Quite recently, that same song repeated itself in Western. Sanction, no sanction, vote for it. So under this kind of mindset, what are the person that tends to debate about? The minds of the people in the they are not interested in what is debate. So is there a way in your view that we can change this kind of mindset that Liberians can take serious the issue of debate in terms of determining who makes the best candidate as we do election?
But Mr. Talbot, that's a very brilliant question. You see, some of the reasons why in our countries, Kenya is an African country, right? The elections were influenced by debates. It was influenced by a campaign. The reason why in places like Ghana, the reason why these things are important. Even in Nigeria, you hear now about Peter Obi. These debates he's having, these interviews. You know why? The media is, you know, the media in the last couple of weeks have been promoting the entire campaign. Husband, these are the things the media promote, and then the very media suffers. How come one radio station opens in Ghana in 2005, the guy who opened our radio station today, the legislature, the second, the judiciary, the third, the executive, who influences all, the executive, who's the third, the fourth. But what does the fourth do? You promote these things. And I think if we can partner, I'm willing to work with the media to assist so that we begin to elevate the right issue. All of these guys here that are talk show hosts, talk to them. When the talk show host gets on the stage in the morning and sets the platform, most of the callers go in that direction. So you control the narrative. If you continuously push a certain narrative, what's going to happen? It's going to change everything. But what do? We permit the unsuspecting politician to influence the narrative. So what happens? The people in their vulnerability think that's the best option. So people actually listen to the radio station. But when you open a radio station, you even talk about marriage issue, people will call. You talk about health, people will call. So people are listening. What are you guys doing with the power of your microphone? I think if you took the power of the microphone seriously, you will help us change this narrative. And the beautiful news is you have multiple radio stations in rural Liberia. Before, where if you went to ELBC and your story wasn't carried, you were worried. Today, you just need to air it on multiple radio stations. Each county has probably 2, 3. I think in Baza they have about 3. In Magibi they probably have about 3. You know, Bangad, and even Salala have 1. You know, the late Martin Kekula open 1. So you have all these different structures that exist today, and we have these things. I think let's leverage the power of the press union, where you guys can meet to help us communicate the right message. The biggest loser from 2023 election will be the people. The biggest loser will be the media. The biggest loser will be increased poverty. The biggest will be increased suffering. If that's the choice you want, then that's what you're going to get. The biggest loser will be educational systems that don't work. The biggest loser will be health systems. I wish if I were going on these trips, I would take a team of journalists so you can go to some of these hospitals. In fact, when we were running these operations the last time, some operating rooms where they were cutting people, they didn't even have air conditioning. We had to send for air conditioning to Monrovia quickly. There are places generator didn't work. We had to get new generators in place quickly. These things are troubling. All those things are not elevated. The only thing that's elevated, one politician comes, and that's the one we support. So I think your question is good. I think if all of you guys here, and with the power of your strength, the power of your connectivity, you can help us change Liberia together. I'm serious about this process, about moving our country forward. That's why I'm not siding with wrong. If you're in the opposition and you think you can push Liberia in a particular direction, I'm not for you. If you push it in the right direction, I'm for you. I'm very open to collaborating with my peers in the opposition, even if I see a guy that has a clear vision. I'm willing to even back off and support him 100% so that he takes Liberia forward. I am not desperate. This building you're in, my office will be on the 7th floor, one of the tallest buildings. The entire floor will be my private office. I am not desperate to be president of Liberia. I want to be president of Liberia to change the outcome, change the narrative, refocus our country. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
So we take 2 more questions?
Yeah. Yesterday, the vice president reported to the country that we've had over 4 million people that have been counted for the ongoing national census, and it is expected to come to a close this weekend. And with all the challenges surrounding the process, what do you make of that report?
Well, I'm not even too sure why the vice president is the mouthpiece of the legions. He says a lot about the counting process. The estimated population that we've seen from the growth rate, you know, once you do a census, then they use your growth rate to do the repeated projection. Statisticians know how to do that. We're hanging around 5 or something. My house, I haven't seen a single soul there to check me, so I don't know who they check in with. Maybe some of you guys have been checked. So if the vice president now is the legions boss, then that's good to know. And I think you journalists need to take the mark to her, ask her that. Because in every respect, the legions process is very flawed. And I'm telling you, nobody has gone to my house, and I'm not the only person. I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that. So under the circumstance, you know, it's going to challenge the credibility of the legions system. The fact that it was subjected to all kinds of scrutiny by people working within the system, it creates a lot of questions. And my biggest fear, and that's why I think we in the opposition, even with our different objectives, need to work together. We don't want to come up with a figure here and use that figure as a basis to inflate the numbers at neck and say, oh, these are the voting population. So we're looking at the legislative process cautiously, and we're thinking on what alternatives are available to us to be able to check, mark, and or question their methodology and their approaches.
No more? Well, gentlemen of the press, we want to say thank you for coming. This is the NPC. We are in contact with you regularly. We invite you at any time, and do not relent to call upon us in time. You need to inquire about any other thing, any issue concerning the movement for progressive change, concerning government, concerning the administration of this leadership government. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas or Happy New Year.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas on all